And I'm not always right, but I was right this time.
Yeah, you were
I
right.
was. I'm going to take a victory lap because, like I said, I'm not normally right. But I did call the Avs to win. I think I might have even said in 6 if I'm going to,
You
double down on my prediction here. Honestly, I just thought they were too good. And I thought that the Lightning, the tiredness, fatigue, whatever you want to call it, might catch up to them. That's kind of why I went against it. We'll get into the injuries later, but clearly the Lightning were fatigued and were injured. But now that the series is done and we've had a little bit of time to reflect on it, Avs Cup winners. What does that feel for you?
I mean, yeah, away from how they played, there's a lot to be happy about. First of all, for Jared Bednar, I'm pretty sure I think he's won everywhere now. I think in the NCAA, ECHL, sorry, AHL, and now in the NHL too. And I'm not 100% sure, but he coached in the AHL for a really long time before he finally got that chance, right? And you could see in the parade, he got really emotional, talking about how much he loved his entire team. That's a coach that clearly got his players to buy in, and I'm really happy to see that. I'm also really happy for McKinnon, that hug that he gave to Johnson. I think it shows that team was legitimately a family. They were really, really, really close, especially what McKinnon said to Landeskog. No, Landeskog said to McKinnon, I don't know if you heard, but he's like, we did it. I love you, man. And he's like, I love you, man. We're world champs. Gave me goosebumps.
That's cool. That's really cool. I think to win the cup, you have to be. You see it all the time in other sports, even in the NHL, where there's, when teams aren't together and they really want to play for each other and do all the things that it takes to win. You don't win. It's pretty prevalent or obvious in the NBA a lot because there's a lot of more characters and they express themselves a little more, and so when things aren't going right in the locker room, even if a team is stacked. I think what was it, Brooklyn last year, for an example. Even if your team is stacked, but you don't play for each other, you don't have that bit of cohesiveness within the team. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. I think hockey is the perfect example of that kind of sport where they always tend to play for each other, and it shows.
What did you see from Colorado over Tampa, maybe in certain games or throughout the entire series, that you thought was the reason that they got it done?
I think they just outworked Tampa, and that's not even to, a knock against Tampa. That's the Avs game. They work harder than the team they're playing, and they're usually more talented as well. When you put those two together, it's a recipe for success. Obviously, we saw that. Even in Game 6, though, because we previewed most of the games in our last episode, but we recorded right before Game 6. In Game 6, when they went down early, I thought they were kind of screwed because we're used to Tampa scoring early and then shutting things down. But the Avs, they stormed back in the second. They got 2, and then they shut it down. Excuse me. Against Tampa, they held them to 4 shots in the third.
Yeah.
For a team with their season on the line like Tampa, hurt or healthy, that's still a fantastic team. To hold them to 4 in a do-or-die game like that is honestly really impressive. It was exactly sort of what you expect from a cup winner, and they closed the series out in that third, and they deserved to win after that. After there was no questions, I think, that they got lucky or whatnot. I think that third period put a cap on the series and said, no, the best team in the league won this year.
Yeah, 100%. The better team won. They dominated offensively throughout the entire series. They had a higher expected goals legitimately every game, and it wasn't close. Game 1 was 62-38, then 87% to 13% in Game 2. The only one where it was close was Game 4. Tampa edged out Colorado 51% to 49% expected goals. It was right on the line. As you look through it throughout the entire series, we're looking at attempts off passes, chances, rush attempts, in-zone attempts, carry chances, high-danger passes. Colorado led Tampa Bay in those in legitimately every single game except Game 5. Tampa just edged out Colorado in legitimately only one of those stats. So it's exactly what you expected to see. Colorado's game is checking. They outchecked Tampa the entire series, and I thought the real turning point of the series was when Cirelli went down.
It's a tough. We'll talk about the injuries later, but that's a big blow for them.
Yeah, not even getting into injuries. It's just Tampa had pretty much no depth after Cirelli and Point went down. Like when Point goes down, that second line they makeshift it with Hagel, Killorn, and Cirelli. But then Cirelli goes down and can't take a shot, can't take a face-off, can't do anything. All Colorado had to do was kind of smother that first line. And to their credit, Kucherov, Stamkos, and Palat were pretty unnoticeable in the latter stages of that series, except Stamkos played pretty well, but Kucherov was a ghost.
I mean, okay, Kucherov was a bit of a ghost, but even if that line plays well as they can, if you have no one past that, it's only a third of the time what guys on the ice can hurt you if you play 20 minutes a night.
Yep.
So the injury to Point killed them, and then we'll talk about Cirelli, but Cirelli is such a valuable player to that team, and if he goes down, then who do they even have playing center? He was playing center, but it was 30% of Anthony Cirelli. Yep. That's basically a fourth liner at that point, which is unfortunate for them. Last episode, something I want to talk about, we gave Kemper a little bit of grief last time, which is justified at the time. And my thing was sometimes you just need a save. You need to make a save under certain circumstances. And that save on the Kucherov one-timer late in the third is one of 4 shots. So you got to make those saves. That save was huge. He had to slide across the crease. Kucherov in his wheelhouse on a 2-on-1. That's exactly what I mean when I said sometimes you need a save. And, for all intents and purposes, that kind of won them that game. Because if they tie it up 2-2, then you go into overtime and you never know what happens. So that's a huge save. And we'll get into injuries, but apparently Kemper was seeing an optometrist every day since his eye injury to get his vision right. So there was clearly something wrong, and we noticed that. And good on him for making those saves. And maybe that criticism was less justified, or we can now gain more of an appreciation as to how much he was actually struggling.
Yeah, I mean, that save's also harder because it's right at the end of the game. And you said, he hadn't faced a shot in almost a period. You're a goalie. You definitely know this better than I do. When you're not facing shots regularly, there might be one that might be more likely to go in just because you're a bit cold.
Yeah, when I played, I would much rather, even though it means you're more likely to lose, I would much rather be consistently peppered with the shots because you stay engaged. When you're facing 4 shots in a period, and one of those shots was from the red line, so it's basically 3. That's one every I can't even do math, but that's more than one. That's like 6-7 minutes you're waiting between shots on average. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And even when Marty Brodeur won all his cups, one of the big knocks, fake knocks, I don't really consider this a knock, because he only faced 18 shots a game. It's like 18 shots a game. That's you're not facing shots regularly. You have to stay dialed in all the time to make those saves. And sometimes when a goalie plays against a better team, plays in front of a better team, they see a drop in their performance. And we saw that with Kemper earlier in the year, but he figured it out, got used to it, and won a cup for it. So good on him. Happy to see him succeed, and wonder if he'll get paid now in free agency.
Yeah, we'll see. Breaking down this goalie matchup a little bit more, you know what? You're right. Give it to Kemper. The dude stood his ground in Game 6. Put this into context. You're facing the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, who, if they win again, they're on the verge of being one of the best teams ever. Probably the best team, definitely the best team in the Cap era. Yep. In Game 6, going down 1-0 into the second and third period with a hot Vazzy, and he comes out and posts a shutout in 2 periods. And right against quite possibly the best goalie of all time. When it's said and done, you could make a case for that.
You could be
right.
Yeah.
If Vazzy wins another cup, a couple more Vezinas, he could do it. Overall, the goalie matchup was pretty underwhelming in this Stanley Cup playoffs. I looked, Jay Fresh posted something from Top Down Hockey that cumulative saves above expected was negative the entire series for both goalies. And there was a huge dip in Vasilevsky's performance in Game 1 and 2. Like we said, that always happens.
Yeah, he wasn't, looking back now at his whole body of work, he wasn't really that impressive this playoffs. He definitely had a dip in performance. Against Toronto, he was not great at 890, whatever. Against Florida, he was amazing. Back to regular Vazzy. But other than that, he just seemed like I don't know.
He still posted like a 925 the entire playoffs.
But maybe because the bar's so high, I'm expecting him to be posting 950s every series. But 925 is still fabulous.
Yeah, but like I was talking about last episode, after games 1 and 2, he posted like 980s. And in this series, he was fantastic after game 1 and 2. Right, he let in 2 goals in Game 6, a couple in Game 5 as well. The goals that he let in, were not great goals, but if you let in 2 goals a game against a Colorado team, you should win that series. That's true. Right?
That's true.
He did what he had to do. I mean, he played well enough to win the Conn Smythe if they were going to win it all. But just at the end of the day, you cannot go down 2-0 to a team that checks that well. It's a recipe for disaster. You can get away with that maybe against the Leafs, maybe, probably not. They didn't go down 2-0. You could get away with that against
The Rangers.
The Rangers, sorry, brain fart. But yeah, there's no way going down 2-0 you were gonna beat Tampa Bay. I said when I originally said Tampa in 7, I did say I'm not trying to justify I was wrong, but I did say if Colorado won 2 at home, there was no chance. And I mean, yeah, they got it done. Good for them.
Yeah. Do we want to move on to some of these crazy sets of injuries that these guys were playing through before we hop into some of the free agents that might get paid, or did you want to talk about some other performances that you were impressed with?
There's just one thing I want to talk about really quickly, because Ryan McDonagh deserves a big shout out.
Okay.
He was great the entire series, but really quickly, I heard a couple days ago that they are going to try to shop McDonagh because they want to prioritize Ruda, Nick Paul, and Andre Palat. Those are the 3.
Yeah, it's weird.
You know, I know we didn't prepare for this too much, but intangibly, do you not think Ryan McDonagh is more important to prioritize than a Nick Paul? Like, what's going through Brisebois' head when he says, I want to get rid of McDonagh so I can sign Nick Paul to what is now a 7-year AAV of $3 million deal? I think that got signed today.
$3 million yearly.
Yes, for 7 years.
For 7 years, yeah.
Like, what's going through the mind to keep Nick Paul over Ryan McDonagh?
I think there's a couple things. I think, one, it's similar to the Jake Muzzin situation in Toronto, where it's a guy who's clearly on his back nine, still good at what he does, but does that justify the money that he's making when you're in a cap, when your cap is pinched like that? Maybe in Brisebois' mind, no. Secondly, Sergachev still plays on their third pair, and he's going to get paid next summer north of $7-8 million. I would assume he's going to command that kind of money. And if you're going to spend 7 point something million on Hedman, 7 to 9, anywhere from 7 to 8, maybe he takes a discount on Sergachev, and then 5 something on McDonagh. That's a lot of money in 3 defensemen. And maybe he's thinking, I don't want to get rid of McDonagh because I don't think he's a good player. It's like we have to prioritize our money. We have to prioritize maybe letting Sergachev take that step, because I was very impressed with him this playoffs.
Yeah, it was good.
And maybe he also feels that on forward, if we lose Palat, if we lose McDonagh, if we lose Palat and Nick Paul, then we really are losing depth on our left wing, and maybe he can't justify losing that, so he's going to prioritize keeping his forwards and maybe promoting Sergachev within their lineup, because Sergachev was technically, I think, on their third pair still. So maybe that's where his thinking comes from. You don't get better by losing guys like this, but this is just the reality of a hard cap.
Yeah, no, those are good points. Ryan McDonagh actually makes $6.8 million over 4 years.
So that's more than I thought.
You're right. That's a lot of money. Nick Paul's projected wins above replacement is 34%, but that doesn't really justify him as a player. He's a better player than that word describes him. Expected value of defense is in the 88th percentile.
That's pretty good.
He's a very good defensive center. He's a center, right?
I think he plays both, but I think he did play center at times in this playoffs too.
The only reason why I didn't necessarily love the signing is because they have Hagel and Cirelli that already do this job pretty well.
Yeah.
But if he plays on the wing, well then that's a good take. The only thing is Ryan McDonagh defensively, his metrics in percentile terms are fantastic, and we all know Ryan McDonagh is criminally underrated, even at the age of 33. Still a great defenseman. The only reason why I thought letting go of him kind of sucked is because, all else equal, a very good defenseman is way more scarce than a very good defensive forward. But like you're saying, you know, if they got to pay Sergachev, then this move does make sense. Yeah,
I think it's one of those things where you have to pick your poison, because no GM goes into the offseason and says, I can't wait to get rid of McDonagh, because I'm sure in the locker room he has immense value to them too. But you got to make tough decisions, and it's funny, like they're working with him to find a destination. Like when there's like these really good teams, like it's weird. Like players seem to be willing to waive no trade clauses to make things happen. I think Tyler Johnson did the same thing a couple of seasons ago. But when you cultivate a culture like that and you treat your players well, they're maybe willing to do you favors down the road. So that's probably a lesson to other teams as well. Injury list?
Yeah, on a side note, the reason why I wanted to include this is it blows my mind how after every series these players come out and talk about their injuries, and you would never know by the way that they played, because it looks like they're like seamlessly unaffected. I have the list of injuries here. If you have them too, you can name them out.
I got them.
Okay, go rip the ones for Tampa.
Tampa. So Pierre-Edouard Bellemare played through a meniscus injury that he suffered before the playoffs even started.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Cirelli had an AC joint sprain that he suffered in the New York series and then dislocated his shoulder in the finals. I think that happened when everyone thought he got cut.
Mm-hmm.
He just fell funny and dislocated his shoulder, which is ridiculous that he came back that game. McDonough had a quote-unquote mangled finger. That's what they described it, mangled. Kucherov had a meniscus injury that he picked up in the finals. Hagel fractured his foot in round 2. Nick Paul had an AC joint sprain that he suffered in the Eastern Conference Final and MCL in the Stanley Cup Finals. And then Corey Perry had an AC joint sprain as well in the Eastern Conference Finals.
And then don't forget about Braden Point's significant quad tear.
Yes, quad tear. And Chernak was bruised every bone in his body.
Chernak had, probably broke every bone in his lower body because he blocked maybe 100 shots.
I'd never seen a guy block shots willingly like that before. Like, that was just his job, to eat pucks, and he got fed.
And
giggity.
And then when we're talking about Nichushkin too, I remember he was talking to Elliot Friedman in the Stanley Cup Finals, like when they had won it after, and he had said no interview, and Friedman just said, I just want to know about the injury. And Nichushkin pointed to his foot, like the top of his foot, and said there was like he was broken. Yeah,
there were pictures floating around. His foot was purple.
Yeah,
disgusting.
Yeah. Apparently he couldn't walk into the dressing room, was hobbling. Nazem Kadri in the post-game interview said he couldn't tie his skates. He needed his trainer to tie them for him. I remember going back a little bit, Tristan Jarry, he had to, like his foot was bleeding between periods. They had to re-stitch him up. Not stitch him up, like retape him. I wanted to talk about why the NHL or like hockey players are just known for not only battling through these injuries, it's the fact that they don't make it known. Like when you talk about the NBA, there'll be a lot of players, even in big finals games, that won't play when they're hurt because they want to preserve the rest of their career. And you know what? A part of that is justified. Like if I was an NHL player, I might not necessarily want to risk winning a Stanley Cup now for never being able to play again. Yeah. It's just, what is it about hockey players that makes them play through? By the way, not like a finger sprain.
Yeah, they're not trivial.
Joint MCL, ACL sprains. Like those are 7-8 month injuries.
If you tear them.
Yeah.
But they're definitely injuries worth not playing games for.
Yeah.
I think it's just a culture thing. Like, guys have been playing through injuries in hockey forever. I'm pretty sure Bobby Bonds scored a Stanley Cup winning goal for the Leafs in the 60s on a legit broken leg.
Wow.
So, and that it's gone back forever. So it's ingrained into hockey culture that you play through injuries, and we can maybe talk about how some of that maybe isn't the best, but you have to respect the fact that they do anyway.
For sure.
Also, going hand in hand with that culture, maybe they feel like if you see 5 other guys playing with a torn MCL or sprained MCL and a sprained AC joint, how are you going to not also do the same? Mm-hmm. It's almost like, are you going to be judged? Or are you going to be feeling like you're letting them down? That's where the culture comes into play. Like I said, there's probably a lot that people can pick at in terms of that being not a healthy culture, but at the same time, people are legitimately playing through significant pain, and that's worth at least respecting and acknowledging. Also, Toradol is a hell of a drug. Like, I'm sure these guys couldn't feel their shoulders or couldn't feel their knees, and they just play through the pain. Not through the pain, play through the damage, knowing that their offseason is going to consist of crazy rehab, but that short-term gain for potentially some long-term pain is worth it in their eyes for a cup.
I just don't get how Valery Nichushkin can't tie his skates because his foot is broken, but can go out there and have one of the best playoff runs.
He played like 20 minutes in Game 6.
It makes no sense to me. I think another reason why they might do this is, you said it well. You said when we were watching the game together that it almost looks like when other teams realize other players have injuries, they go and target.
That could be it as well.
Right? Like, not targeting with the intent to hurt, but if you know that Nikita Kucherov maybe is suffering with a problem on his left shoulder, if you have a chance to make a clean, proper hit on him on the shoulder, you take it. And this is all happening, by the way, with injuries that aren't confirmed. So maybe if they come out and tell people their injuries,
then they'd have a reason to go target them. Yeah.
And they might target weaknesses. I don't know what it is. I just major respect to hockey players for not only playing through injuries, but not even letting the media know, so that if they play poorly, it can be attributed to those injuries.
That's true. Even I saw a lot of people who are in the betting scene complain about this, though, because you're betting on games a lot of time in hockey without knowing what's going on. So if you're betting on a favorite, let's say, but the favorite's injured, every player on the team is injured, are they really favorites?
Man, that's so disrespectful. It's almost like Colorado doesn't care that people are betting on
No,
them.
they don't. But people care about their money.
Sarcasm for anybody listening to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I had to say about injuries. Lots of respect.
Well, we talked about Nichushkin. He's going to be one of those guys this offseason from the cup-winning team. Get that nice inflated value. I think he's probably the guy whose stock has risen the most this playoffs, and he capped it off with that incredible finals performance. I don't know how much he's going to get paid, but I can see him getting between $5 and $6 million.
I was even going to say 7.
You think that high?
The way that I see it, Nichushkin had 9 goals, 6 assists with a plus-minus of 6 in 20 games in the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs, won his first cup, tied 5th in points among all Colorado players behind the 4 big boys. And the big boys are Landeskog, McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen. Play driving is off the charts. I think he's cemented himself as a first-line winger on a lot of teams. Probably not slotting as like the first best winger, but
like he can play there.
Like the Andre Palat to Nikita Kucherov type first-line winger. When you look at his stats by microstat game scores, Valeri Nichushkin led in the Stanley Cup Finals all players on both sides next to Nathan McKinnon in overall zone entries, forechecking, entry defense, exits, special teams, you name it. The dude was playing the hockey of his life. And if he's scoring almost at a point per game pace in the playoffs after what he did in the regular season, by the way, not even playing with like McKinnon for most of the season. He played a lot of
time on the second line, right?
Yeah, towards the end of the line, Bednar switched up the big 3, but for a lot of his offense was not playing with the big boys. The dude shows he can get paid.
And guys always get, I'm not even going to say this, he's going to get overpaid, but GMs are more willing to pay more for guys who just won the cup because recency bias exists, of course.
Yeah, but it also shows that these players can play in big moments, right?
Yeah, and they pay for that too. Yeah, and he's only 27. Feels like he's been around for, I don't know, a lot longer than that.
He got drafted? I think it was 10th overall in like 2012 or something.
Yeah, he got drafted 10th overall. If he's 27, if a team gives him the max, which is a 7-year deal, he's only at 34. It's not even terrible by that time. Like you'd want him off your books when he's in his mid-30s, and you're getting that. So I could see him getting quite a bit of money.
You know who else is a dude that played incredibly well this playoffs that is going to attribute to a very high value going into next year? Nazem Kadri.
Yeah, Nazem's going to get
goes
paid.
Without saying. He put up, 95 points this year and missed a bunch of games.
That.
Intangibly, I think the biggest thing that he proved this playoffs was the only thing he had to prove left, which is that he could go an entire playoffs without being suspended.
Yeah.
Right? It happened twice in Toronto. Then it happened once in Colorado when he went back. There was controversy this playoffs too with Jordan Binnington. I'm not talking about the off-ice stuff. I'm talking about the actual hit.
Oh, that's right.
Right? He showed that he can go through an entire playoffs and that he can also tough through injuries. And he was playing without being able to tie his skates, like I said, and had 15 points in 16 games.
Yeah, for the last series, because
overall throughout the entire playoffs was 15 points in 16 games.
Yeah, but he didn't break his thumb early. He broke his thumb at the end.
Yes.
Round 3. But either way, that's still an incredible performance. And even like just his mental strength. He had to, like when he went through all that stuff off the ice, like to still stay in the game and the next game to score a hat trick, and just like that's something worth paying for too.
Yeah, you read my mind.
It's not
even the 15 points that they came at super big times. Like you said, he scored that hat trick against St. Louis when that series was tighter than it should have been, and one of those goals was the game winner. Scored the OT goal in the Stanley Cup Finals that with the so-called offside that wasn't really offside. Like, I think GMs take note that these guys rise at the right times. Like, it's not like he's scoring a bunch of empty net goals, and especially because he's a center, he's going to get paid so hard. We'll break this down next week, so stay tuned for free agents. But really quickly, I think he's going to go to a place that needs to win now in center depth. And with Malkin leaving Pittsburgh, I think Pittsburgh's a good spot for him.
Gosh, yeah.
I think
maybe
8.5 is probably what he's going to get.
Yeah, I have around 8.5. The only hesitation on my part would be is that he's 30 already. If you have to give him max term, he's going to be 37. I guess you have to hope the cap goes up and that he plays well deep into the contract. But if you're a team trying to win now, like Pittsburgh is a great example. They have maybe 3 more runs, maybe at most 3 more. You don't really care about those first 3 years of performance, because after that, it's like whatever. They know they're going to suck. So you're trying to win another cup. Maybe you say, okay, I'm paying for the first 3 years of this guy. After that, it's not my problem. The GM's not going to be there. If you have to flip the contract for some assets, who cares? You do it. If you win a cup, you win a cup.
I agree. Any other big names that you think showed this Stanley Cup playoffs that they're going to get paid?
Palat has that clutch gene in him. He scores big goals all the time. I just don't know if he's going to take a stupid discount to stay there. I have a small feeling he will. Because now that they're going to potentially make room with McDonough. I don't know how they always find ways to do this, because they're going to have to pay Sergachev. They're going to have to pay Sorelli next year. I don't know how they possibly will do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they found a way.
Incredible. 21 points in 23 games, plus 10, 22% shooting percentage. And not for nothing, he only plays 17 minutes a night. Scored big goals too. That game winner in game 5, he's probably worth 7.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. It's a fair evaluation.
And I wonder if they give it to him.
I think they'd love to if they could. I hadn't taken a deep dive into their cap friendly yet. Maybe something we can do for our next episode. But I just don't see how they have the space to do that. But again, it's Tampa. If he goes to the open market, though, he'll get paid nicely. And he deserves it because he's had a hell of a career so far for a 7th rounder.
Yeah, I hear Nikita Kucherov might have an injury next year too, so that might.
Oh yeah, how convenient! You're gonna have to get MCL surgery.
Other names that I have, not to go too in depth with them. Josh Manson, right, showed that he can be that big stay-home defense. He's gonna be a UFA. I know JT Compher isn't up for UFA this year, but
is he an RFA?
I don't even know. I'm just saying it's within the next couple of years.
Oh, I understand.
I think GMs remember this playoffs. He was fantastic. A lot of players at the back end of Colorado's offensive team were moving in and out before Kadri got hurt, and he was a mainstay in that lineup. Had, I think, 4 goals in the Western Conference Finals. Was noticeable away from the puck as well. I think he gets paid when it's time.
No, that's good. Yeah, he's one of those sneaky depth players that you need to go all the way, and they tend to get paid too. GMs definitely remember that. For better or for worse, they remember it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content, and find the link to our full podcast and all our socials in the description down below.
Also, don't forget to turn on those notifications to get live updates on new videos that we release.